One. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Feeding Fatty. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
So what we're doing is we're chronicling my journey. I am on a journey to get healthy, get fit, get in shape. And so what we do, we talk a lot about my individual situation and Terry's support of that. But we also have guest professionals from time to time. And today is no exception. We've got an awesome guest. Paul Glover is with us, and his message really resonated with me. So I just felt like, we really had to get him on the show. He is the No-B.S workforce performance coach. He assists organization, team leaders, and teams to reach their full potential and become high performing. He's also a recovering trial lawyer, which we'll let him talk about that for sure. Starbucks addict, Chicago's Bears fan. He is the author of Workquake. He's also a speaker on business and leadership topics and a member of the Forbes Coaching Council. Paul, thanks for being with us. We are excited to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much, Roy and Terry. It's a privilege and a pleasure.
Yeah, and I think what resonates with me, and I meant to tell you pre-show that since we talked earlier, it's really been resonating with me about not only the healthy part just for Terry and for having a much better life, but the point you make about it enhances our leadership qualities and makes us better leaders, and also helps us to set an example. I mean, I think that's such an important message that I think sometimes we miss that. We always think that, we're, no matter what condition our body may be in, that we're operating at the maximum capacity. And that's just not true.
You're absolutely correct. It isn't. And it's amazing to me how many leaders do not make the connection between their physical self and their mental self, and how both of those have to be aligned before you can lead a high performance team and before you can be a high performance on your own. So yes, part of my coaching process is to remind that person that is in a leadership position that there is an obligation that they owe to their team to make sure that they are doing self-care. And self-care, of course, goes to the physicality as well as the mental aspect of who they are and what they need to do so that they can perform at that high level and help people and other people reach their potential.
Yeah, because there's just so much that's coming at us every day. And I tell you, there are days that after it's over, I feel as washed out as if I'd have climbed a mountain, just sitting here thinking. And some, I kind of jokingly say, Terry, I might have overthought today, kind of a little bit sluggish here when we get through, but it does take a toll on you.
Been every day lately.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I think that the pandemic has added that extra layer of need to first be aware of the toll, the emotional toll that the pandemic is taking. And it does not depend, it actually has nothing to do with the impact on you. It has to do with the impact on other people and on society. And as we interact with them, as I tell people, leaders, whenever you have an interaction with a team member, if you're doing your job, by the time that interaction is over, there's been a transfer of energy. Mm-hmm. If you're doing your job, you hopefully are giving that person a jolt of energy. But at the same time, you're taking stress off of them by doing that and adding it to your own burden. And we often forget that, and that at the end of the day, we not only have our own stress, but we have that accumulated stress from team members who are suffering through situations that we're trying to help them with. One of those things about let's separate work and life. We keep talking about this weird balance that we believe exists. And I think the pandemic very clearly showed that our work and our life is integrated. And the stress in our life, we don't get to leave it when we go to work. And so it comes with us. And as a team leader, we have to be cognizant of when a team member is starting to suffer from the amount of stress and assist them with well-being. But when we do that, again, we accumulate their stress, and you need to do something with that. By the way, the easiest thing for people to do is to self-gratify. When I feel like I've had a tough day, the first thing I should do is eat pie. Because I deserve pie.
Right.
I've worked hard to get that pie. It tastes good. Somebody made it, and I'm going to eat it. Or let's get more serious. I'm going to drink. Overeating and drinking are two things that I've seen increase dramatically among leaders, just because they are trying to alleviate the stress that they've accumulated.
Yeah.
Worst way to do it ever. I actually believe that that increases stress. I don't know how it can, because your body now has to deal with
Yeah.
what you're doing to it. Yeah, the stress may very well be mental, and you're physically or you're psychically dealing with that emotionally. But when you start taking and abusing your physicality, when you start overeating and over drinking and not exercising, not sleeping enough, well, guess what? We now have it did that double whammy.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it destroys your ability to be an effective team leader.
Yeah, because I would assert
Agreed.
as a stress eater, I've not, fortunately I've never been a big drinker, but I am a big eater. And I think it satisfies us without dealing with whatever that was. So I think,
Just for the moment.
yeah, and we accumulate, well, not only are we accumulating the excess weight, we're probably it's harder for our bodies to
Damaged,
digest, to use that, but then we really haven't dealt with that underlying issue. And the other thing I was going to say right quick is I, I I don't know about this because Terry is very supportive, but I would assert that it's the opposite, that we can carry our home life over into our work life. So if we don't have that squared away, there's really no separation. It at the end of the day, it all just really blurs and runs together.
It does. And again, the pandemic, I think, has, because of what it's done to work, right? It's eliminated 40% of the workforce from going away from the home to actually do their work.
Yeah.
And that's a shock to a lot of people. I mean, as much as everybody whines about the fact that they've got to commute, whines about the office, the reality is that it's an escape for some people.
Yes.
They get to leave the home environment and go someplace else where, even though they have a job, the reality is it's a much different level of responsibility and stress. Job stress is still there, by the way. And obviously, if you've got a bad team leader, you will suffer as if you've got a bad marriage.
Exactly.
It doesn't go away, and you pay that price. But most of the time, people go to work and they're okay.
Yeah.
It's a change of scenery, and they appreciate that. The pandemic, of course, eliminated that, and we weren't able to adjust real well. That's why when I hear about people who want to go back to the office, I go, I can tell that things are normally not going well for you, because you should not want to go back to that cage.
Right.
That's the way I look at it. We are still managing offices with an industrial age mindset.
Yeah.
Right. We're all about, and by the way, I look at unfortunately too many managers as if they were prison guards. And by the way, and I'm going to obviously, we're going to get to the fact that I am an ex-felon, so I'm real familiar with prison guards. And I can tell you that there are supervisors and managers who would, if you gave them the uniform and the club, that's exactly what they would be in the workplace.
Exactly.
Wow.
No, you're exactly right about that. And for I guess it's off topic a minute, but it just say that that comes from not having good hires. When we don't make the right hires, we feel like we have to stand over them. Where when we make the good hires, we give people the tools. They should be, there's saw something the other day. It said, they should be telling us what to do, not us telling them what to do.
That's right.
They should be. And I had a team builder that I talked to on the business show the other day, and she was talking about a lot of times when we hire people, we feel like they drag us down because we have to now manage them. But that's a bad hire. We should be hiring people that push us forward and really help us accelerate. All again, off topic, but I do understand, what you're saying about the that prison analogy is that, watching the clock. What time did this guy come in? Is it time to let him out for lunch yet? Can we let him go home? Just
Well,
very,
one of the biggest complaints about working from home is that we don't trust people to do the work at home. And therefore we put surveillance on the computer. We don't try, we just don't. We feel like we've got to watch it. You know, the butts have to be in the seats so we can watch the butts work. And the reality is, out of an 8-hour day, the butts only do 2.5 hours. So apparently it's not working well.
Yeah.
I can tell you that that system does not engage people. Gallup does the research, 35% engagement across the United States. And by the way, we celebrate that as if it's a victory. It's not a victory, it's a defeat. When we have that many people, 65% of our workforce that are not engaged, it's not working. And I swear, I cannot understand leadership that what you said about how you hire people. You're absolutely correct. We don't want to be managed anymore. People find it offensive.
Yeah.
And it's with the exception of one group, but we are going a little bit off topic. I know that's not what we're supposed to be talking about, but the reality is that mindset of I'm going to manage you is archaic.
Yeah.
And therefore it causes people to do one of two things: be absolutely stressed or be rebellious.
Right.
And either way, you get less productivity.
Yeah. 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 And that, for me, of course, we don't have kids, we're at that point in life that it's the two of us and we are pretty responsible adults most of the time. And we could sit and do our stuff. And I'd actually thrive at the house because I don't have the interruptions of being in an office. And I jokingly say that, 20 years ago when I went to an office downtown, I thought it was really cool. You go out for lunch, go out after and have a drink. But then it got to be it turned into a social club. And then so I'd start shutting my door because, what happened was people would come by and want to chit chat all day long. And then at 6 o'clock, I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I can start my work now because I've had all my socialized. Well, I shut the door, then people would just bust through the door. And I actually got where I put a chair in front of the door where they had to have a little more effort. Anyway, so again, way off top. Let's get back to getting healthy. So
Sure.
let's talk about some first steps. We talk a lot about not only our diet, but sleep. And I've admitted to you that, sleep is usually the beginning of the downfall for me,
Yeah.
for the not exercising, for the not eating. And then it's like bad decision making. And then it's like maybe even a little bit of shortness. So anyway, let's talk about how sleep affects us, in our leadership roles.
Well, again, the research, and I am a research geek, shows that if you don't get enough sleep, and we always believe we know how much sleep is enough sleep, we don't. We continually trick ourselves. We believe we can get by, but we still think we're in college. For those who went to college, and I'm
Right.
going to stay up all night and cram for the test. And then, of course, we think we're going to do well on the test. The reality is we don't. So sleep and performance are intertwined, so you can't escape it, right? Our body needs a certain amount of rest. And by the way, I look at it as it's not just some rest, it's a certain kind of rest. You actually have to get into REM sleep. That requires the environment allow you to do that. It also means that you've got to de-stress enough so that your mind stops racing. Because it is, you come home and hopefully, and again, I think that people say, well, 3 or 4 glasses of wine and I'm good to go. I can lay down and go to sleep. And I tell them that is not good sleep for you.
Right.
You just think it is. So the reality is that if you don't get enough sleep, your level of performance is that of a drunk driver. You have lost the ability to be in control to a certain degree. You are waiting to have an accident. You're waiting to make the wrong decision. And you had said it, Roy, you get short, right? Why? Well, we're tired.
Yeah.
And when we're tired, everything becomes more acute for us, right? We're more aggravated by situations. We're more aggravated by people. When I was a practicing attorney, I made sure that my client was never sentenced in the afternoon, because I knew that by that time, the judge, who was probably cranky in the morning, was not only cranky, but he was tired. And he would look at my client differently. And I guarantee you, because research shows it, he would give out a stricter sentence.
Huh.
That's just the way we operate, right? We get tired. And once we get tired, we don't like people anymore. They are a nuisance to us. We push them away. Team members can't handle it. And by the way, team members are pretty astute, right? They're not stupid. They say, I can tell that the boss is not in a good mood today. The boss is tired today. Stay away from him. Don't tell him the truth today, because that's what it amounts to. Guess what? That situation that needed to be discussed and taken care of doesn't get discussed because the boss is tired today. Oh my God, this is a recipe for a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
So yes, so the sleep aspect of it, when I talk to my clients about this, because I believe that it's a part of my obligation to point out the obvious. I tell people I make my living off of pointing out the obvious. We know these things because when I ask you what should you be doing as a client, they'll tell me right away. And then the question is, well, are you doing it?
Right.
And that's where we get the hesitation, right? Because they're trying to figure out, can he tell if I'm going to lie to him?
Right.
You know, like when we go to the dentist and they say, do you floss? And you go every night. Like, I finally got tired of saying it. I said, no, I don't floss. And he said, well, you should. I said, I know that, but I don't. What do you want me to tell you? Lie to you again? So anyway, he said, no, buy a flossing machine instead of the thread. Actually, that works. That's what I look at with my clients. I go, let's talk about what is going to make you sleep. Right? And we have that discussion. You have to have a sleep environment. It has to be dark. You have to not eat or drink before you go to bed. I mean, there's this whole list of things that I'll go over with them. And then of course, a part of my job is to say, if you agree to do this, so you can be a better leader, I'm going to ask you when we talk next, are you doing it?
No.
And I have a pretty good bullshit antenna. And if I can sense that you're lying to me, we have a different discussion. Right? But people are willing to try step by step. So back to that, I don't want to overreact to the sleeping thing because it's only one of the aspects of self-care, but it's a very important one that people don't pay enough attention to. Yet my son is a perfect example. They have a mattress that I wouldn't let a dog sleep on. And I told him, I said, you need a better mattress. I'm just fine, Dad. No, you're not. It's like you're sleeping in a hammock. And I know that it impacts him because I can tell when he's had a bad night's sleep. He's got a bad back on top. Anyway, so there's a whole list of criteria that I go over with people.
Yeah,
it's part of being a better leader.
Yeah, and I think it's important on the sleep is like you said, it's more than just laying down or being in the bed at night and waking up in the morning. There's a lot we need to do to prepare ourselves for that.
Rituals.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm gonna turn this up just a little bit where Terry can hear you well, but like
oh no, this is a setup.
She said the magic word, ritual. Yeah. We need a sleep ritual that we follow just without fail. Why? Because that's how we get to the state of being able to sleep. And a part of that has got to be how you de-stress from the day. And meditation is something that most leaders know about, but they feel it's girly. Well, most of my clients are male, and when I talk about some of this stuff, they're like, "Well, do you want me to do yoga next? Maybe."
Yeah.
They could only dream of being girly.
Exactly. That's correct. I tell them, I said, football players take ballet lessons. Why? Balance. Yeah. So stop believing this stuff doesn't matter. If it doesn't work for you, try something else, but try it. Be open-minded enough to try it. But the ritual is extremely important. Same time to bed every night. Turn off the devices. Oh no, what if the President of the United States wants to get in touch with me? Believe me, the Secret Service will get there. Don't worry. You don't have to stay awake, just wait for that message. So it's important to turn off the devices. People leave their notifications on, make me nuts. Do you really need to hear the ding of another text at midnight?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Anyway, so yeah, we've got a whole situation, but that's extremely important, Terry, the ritual.
Yeah.
I thought that was the setup part because we've been trying to not use our phones before we go to bed. I like to go through there and check out the social media, look at the hits, look at the jokes, no.
Oh my God, it'll keep you,
all night long.
and I know that everybody has their own methods here, and I've got mine. My wife and I, 10:30 is cutoff time. I have trained myself, so at 10:30, I don't care what's going on. I'll tell people you got to go now. It better be the weekend, because if I've got to get up in the morning and I've got a 5 o'clock, I'm on.
Yeah.
And I've got to be prepared to go through 6 or 7 hours of coaching. And the last person of the day is entitled to my complete attention and energy level as the first person. I
Right.
can't do that if I'm tired. So at 10:30, everybody goes away and we go in and do the brush your teeth and floss. And then I sit down and I turn on Perry Mason.
Oh.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is my ritual.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I don't want to see any of the beginning of Perry Mason. I want to get to the courtroom, because I don't practice anymore, right? And as bizarre as it may seem, watching Perry Mason in black and white, no blood, everything, and within 10, 15 minutes, I'm gone.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. It takes my mind in a different place, right? And
Yeah.
it's not necessarily entertaining. I think I've seen them all like 6 or 7, 8 times. But it just does, it tricks the trigger, right? We're constantly tricking ourselves to do the right thing, because we apparently can't do it on our own. And if I go in and I don't turn it on, my wife goes, turn on Perry Mason. And by the way, she hates Perry Mason. But she knows that I'm going to go to sleep, and then she can do whatever she wants. It doesn't matter. But anyway, though, and that's the ritual.
Yeah.
And
You
I'm
know,
also up at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's not 5:01, and I don't need an alarm. I'm up.
Yeah. No, I
Ritual.
think you made a good point about your clients, and I guess we can put this in the every manager's point of view, is that the very last decision that we make of our workday, we should give it as much time, attention, and thought, and we should have the right attitude and be in the right place as we did for that very first one. And so that's a big deal if we think about that. But let's talk about some other points of self-care. Sleep definitely for me is very important, but what are some other things that you talk about?
Well, and my experience is I tell again, there's some research that shows if you're the CEO or president of an organization, you may have the same personality as a serial killer. And I believe that I was, as a trial lawyer, you got some of that. I mean, that's what trial lawyer is, confrontation and combat. I mean, it really is. The judge is there to keep you from killing each other and make sure that you abide by the rules of the game. But it is exactly that. So your mindset is really very much about winning at all costs. And by the way, the concept is, for every hour in court, for trial, you've got 4 hours of preparation.
Oh, wow.
And when you're on trial, you've got to leave that courtroom and go back to wherever you are and prepare for the next day. Because once you're on trial, you may go 3 or 4 weeks. And it's 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, depending on the judge's schedule. But there's no relaxing.
Right.
So I would actually get a room downtown, since I practice in federal court, so I didn't have to commute back and forth. But the reality was that there was no way that any lawyer that I knew that was a trial lawyer could keep up that pace without help. And at the time, it was drink yourself until you could sleep, right? And drugs. Cocaine was a drug of choice for me. And obviously, you can't do that long before it starts to have an impact on your ability to perform. But it would get you through the day.
Right.
And so at some point, though, I was destructive, self-destructive. I tell people that self-inflicted wounds is where I got all my scars. Other people have given them scars. I would give myself scars. And I did that. And I think that a lot of leaders do that. They don't do the self-care thing. They do just the opposite. They do self-abuse.
Yeah.
They believe that they should get away with that. Well, my self-abusing days ended when I went to prison, because suddenly my life changed overnight. I went from being the guy that was in charge, from being that hard-driving attorney that had that win-win situation at all costs, including cheating. I had that self-abuse when it came to alcohol and drugs, and I hit an environment that there's all sorts of prison rules that I have that I developed that absolutely I carried with them when I came out. I don't drink anymore. Definitely don't do drugs because I found out that first, it turned me into someone I didn't want to be. And second, it has an impact on you physically and mentally. And I just don't have enough of that left. I've got to be able to protect what I've got. But you show up in prison, and the first thing that they tell you is you ain't running nothing. And that's the case. And you don't want to be a lawyer that goes to prison because the experience is not a pleasant one. And the warden made sure that the first day I showed up, we had a personal conversation. That was after I had a full body cavity search. And he told me in no uncertain terms, if I find out that you're helping anybody else with their case, if I find out you're breaking any of the rules, I will send you to the higher security prison behind the wire, where you'll be with the real bad people. I was in a federal prison camp. And it's not a holiday, believe me, but it certainly isn't there with the guys who have been convicted of murder.
Yeah.
And so my deal was don't make my time any harder or any longer. And from that point on, to make sure that prison for 5.5 years didn't destroy me, I went into self-care. Just no drinking, no drugs, exercise every day, 7 days a week, on the track, walking, doing weights, all of the things that I never would have considered doing in my pre-prison practice. Wouldn't have done it. You couldn't have convinced me to do it. And I survived 5.5 years and came out of prison in better shape than when I went in.
Wow.
I'm still mentally sharp. Why? I took up meditation. I did philosophy. I did the mental things that kept me curious and alive and vital in a prison setting. I tell people the worst part about prison is how boring it is. And it is long pieces of time that is absolutely boring, punctuated by violence. And you never know when there's going to be that punctuation.
Yeah.
So you have to be alert because you don't know what the guy next to you just heard from his wife, that maybe he got the Dear John letter that day. And that guy is now ready to explode, and given any push whatsoever will do so. But the boredom is what you had to deal with. And I dealt with it by keeping myself entertained because prison wasn't going to entertain me. So when I came out of prison, I had a routine that I then applied to my life back in the world. And as I got into coaching, I said, let me make sure that what I'm doing has relevance to my clients. And it turns out that it absolutely does. So that when I talk about self-care, I talk about the experience that I had then and I have now. Because the guy that gets up and goes to work as a team leader is required to do all of the things we talked about, taking care of himself, but taking care of the team.
Right.
And at some point, it takes a toll. It's all about how are we going to remedy the toll. And that has to occur in a couple of different ways. First, it has to occur when you're not at work, but it also has to occur when you are at work. Because I tell people you need to watch The Matrix, because we all are a battery. And we get up in the morning and we hopefully are fully charged. Now, if we're not fully charged, let's have the discussion about why we're not, right? That's because we ate too much, we drank too much, we didn't get enough sleep, whatever it may be. So we need to be fully charged. That means let's look at the night before. But from that point on during the day, you are slowly losing your energy out of that physical battery. And that starts to impede the mental process, the decision-making process. By the way, the workplace does not care if that's what's happening to you. They don't care if you had a bad night at work or a bad night of sleep, rather. They don't care if it's been a bad morning. None of that matters to the workplace. Right? It's just going to keep coming. And that's your job. You either decide that's my job and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And if that's true, and you believe that, and you accept your obligation to the team as well as to yourself, then you need to make sure you are on peak physical and mental condition, just like an athlete. Right? The only difference is we don't get to practice as leaders because we're actually doing it every day.
Right.
We don't practice 6 days and then perform on the seventh day. That gives the athlete the advantage, obviously. And by the way, every athlete I know has a coach. You know why they have a coach? Because
Right.
even though they are professionals, they still need to get better. Why? The situation around them, the team they're going to play, the person on the other side is getting better. They have to get better too. So for leaders, they have to continually not only be in the moment, they have to prepare for the next moment. And during the day, that battery starts to lose its power. That means that during the day, you have to do what you can to re-energize yourself. How you do that is as important as what you did the night before. Are you eating correctly? Well, let's all go out and have a McDonald's Big Mac, the large order of fries, because the small order is never enough. And
Nope.
geez, can we have 32 ounces of sugar and water? Right? And let's do it. Let's really have a lunch that's going to kill us off because when we come back, I don't care what you think, your body's saying all of the blood that used to go to your brain so you can make a decision has now gone to your stomach because we don't have a choice. We got to deal with that lump down there.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's when you start to become dumb. It's interesting. I believe that most decisions, if anybody ever tracked this, the dumb ones are after lunch.
Right.
And we have the 3 o'clock slump, right? I mean, I can tell you all of the things we already know. So when I'm talking to my clients, it's about first, stop that. Stop that eating and drinking that is hurting you in the afternoon.
No.
I'm not telling you not to eat, but I'm telling you that you have to be cognizant of diet all the time. And by the way, people are like, you're just like the Grinch. I mean, when do I get to have some fun? I'm okay with you having fun, as long as you're willing to tell me the cost. All I want to know is the cost. And if you're willing to accept the cost, then one of two things. Either I have to question whether or not you should be the team leader,
Right.
or you have somehow managed to work it out somehow. Right? Tell me you've got the magic wand. Right? Because I like to hear that, but I don't see it. No one's got it yet.
Well, I was just going to say, no, you're fine. You bring up a good point, and I have to put myself out there on this one, and that is a big thing for me. It's like when we're eating right, I feel a little cheated. Let me just put it that way, because it's like, and my favorite example is not long ago, Terry fixed an awesome, it was salmon and asparagus dinner, and we had enough for lunch the next day, and I didn't realize that. So she was out, she called me, said, I'm heading back home. When I get back, we'll eat. And I was like, oh, she's going to stop and get us
He was so excited.
I was so excited. She's going to stop at the Chick-fil-A and she's going to get us a chicken thing and some of those fries.
Chicken sandwich and what
and then the next words out of her mouth was, yeah, we've got that salmon and asparagus. And I will not lie to you. I just deflated
I saw it through the phone.
It's so bizarre that, I let food drive that emotion. And, so one thing that we talk about all the time is we're trying to shift that mentality from food and fun, to food is to live. And then we should find other things to be fun. We could still go out with friends, but we don't have to eat all the bad stuff that is around that, or we can get a veggie plate or there's things to do if you really think about it. And the fun is going out to be with friends and socializing. It's not because we're sitting there stuffing our face with something.
It's not live to eat, it's eat to live, which is.
And I believe that people look at food as a reward.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if I deserve, because I've been good all day long, I deserve a reward for that. And the reward's going to be, like I said, pie. Yeah. I mean, so we do have to have that mental change. But by the way, let me tell you, I am a terrible eater. An Italian beef and sausage sandwich, that's like blood. I need it, right? I tell my wife I'm half Italian. Every once in a while I got to grease up, but it's every once in a while. It's not daily. And when I do that, by the way, I continually trick myself. That's the only way that sometimes I get through the day, right? And one of the tricks is this ring, my wedding ring. When I have eaten poorly, I know because I can't get it off.
I was gonna say.
It's tight, right? I mean, you swell up. You physically will swell up because of the sodium and the rest of that crap, and that ring will be tight. And I know, all right, time is exactly. You're dumb. Exactly right. Thank you. See, right away. You sound like my wife. She's like, dumb today, huh? Yeah, I can't get my ring off. Yeah, well, that's that Italian beef you had last night. So no more for you. And
Right.
and it is truly just changing our mental outlook on food.
Yeah.
We don't need as much. Oh my God, the portions in the United States are crazy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you go any place else in the world, as much as I love pasta. And the deal is if you go out to Olive Garden, they give, what do they have? They give you a meal plus a meal to take home.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what's that? Go to Italy, you get you get something like that, right? I mean, it fits in the palm of your hand. It's delicious and it's enough.
Yeah.
And we start eating, we can't turn it off.
No.
And we're so conditioned, at least in my environment growing up, and I'm not blaming people for it. I'm just saying this is just the way it is. It's that. So you had a bad day today. Well, let's go out and get something to eat that'll make you feel better. Or it's like, oh my gosh, something went great today. Well, let's go eat and celebrate. It's like trying to deprogram a little bit from everything revolves around that food. It should revolve around, our conversation and our relationships, and we can figure out a way to be more healthy and still do that too, because I'm saying I'm guilty of that. I feel like, oh, well, if I can't go out and have the fried appetizers and the big old whatever the meal is and maybe have a couple drinks, well, then I'm just not going to have fun. And that's not true at all. Not true at all.
Well, and I found that I'm an automatic eater. If I've got it, I've ordered it, and I'm, well, this is really going to taste good. But I'll get engaged in a conversation with someone, and I'm still eating.
Right.
I haven't stopped, and suddenly I realize I've had the entire dinner. I didn't taste any of it. It's just gone.
Yes.
And so you're absolutely right, Roy. When we go out, we should be going out not to dinner, even though that's our socialization.
Yeah.
We're going out for the company. We're going out for that entertainment, whatever it may be, social interaction. And let me get to the last one, because it obviously the exercise is huge, and everybody has to be dedicated to exercise.
Yes.
And I tell people once again, these are, and by the way, I'm a strong believer in developing habits, because with the habit, you stop having to make the choice. See, we're terrible. Given the choice between the pie and the salad, I take the pie.
Right.
However, if the pie is not even there, I don't do anything but eat the salad. So I remove the temptation.
Right.
And we do that through the development of habits. And in good habits, exactly remove temptation. We don't think about it. Again, once I get to the exercise part, at 5 o'clock in the morning, the alarm goes off. My exercise clothes are at the side of the bed. I get dressed and I'm out the door. If I were to stop and turn on the computer or look at my phone, I'd never make it to the gym.
Right.
And so I refuse to do that. I've developed the habit, and I'm fine with it. I go, I do my exercise, I come back, I get my coffee. That's my reward, by the way. I believe in rewards. I get my Starbucks, and then I actually look at my phone. I refuse to look at it until then, because then I'm ready to start the day.
Yeah.
But we've got to develop that, and exercise is one of those things absolutely critical to high performance. Yeah. Your body needs to move. That's built into us, right? I mean, the whole concept of who we are is so connected to the physicality of who we are. And we forget that. We forget that I don't know, it's how many thousands of years, we still are as that prehistoric guy coming out of the cave, getting ready to go hunt some dinner. It's all about being physical, and you can't ignore or avoid that, or you pay the price. And the issue is, do you want to pay the price? And again, I go back and I connect it to being a team leader. And if you want to be a leader of a high-performing team, you are the model. Therefore, you have to perform at that level also. So if that's your obligation, you tell me you want to fulfill your obligation. If you do, you have to exercise. I also believe that even though exercise at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, whatever you want to do, the concentrated exercise is important. Equally as important is what are you moving? Are you moving during the day? Because again, we are wearing down as the day goes on. Are you getting up after every 90 minutes? Because that's what the research shows. You cannot focus well for more than 90 minutes. Get up and do a physical activity. What do I recommend? Walking.
Yeah.
Go outside, believe me, getting the vitamin D, being outside is refreshing to your body. The air smells different, right? It's not the air conditioning. It is fresh air as best as it can be. And you do the walk, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
By the way, if you want to take a call while you're on that, because I got some guys that just can't do that way, take the call. Just don't stop moving.
Well, and
Keep
it's so
walking.
it's especially important now that everybody's working from home and they're just sitting in their chairs fixed to their desk and
For hours.
yes, hours.
Well, I will say that when I started wearing my step counter watch, and it's embarrassing to actually admit this, but in our house, when I would stay in and work all day, I could end my day with less than 600 steps. I mean, it's
Oh,
just, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so we really have to fight, but that is something that we've been doing. Uh, some days easier than others, but try to get out and go for that walk in the morning, just a 10, 15, 20 minute, nothing hard, just taking the dogs out. It gives us a good time to have some conversation about our day and how we're going to start it, what we're going to, who's doing what, when and where. And, I told her, I guess it was yesterday morning when we came in, I just felt so fresh and vibrant and ready to jump in and tackle things. It's just amazing how that makes me feel.
and that's how it makes everybody feel if they do it. And as I end the day, assuming that it's not a blizzard out, there's a woods close to us, and my wife and I go and we do a 45-minute walk through the woods, specifically through the woods because I'm a believer in what they call forest washing. I don't know if you've heard about it or not, but it's a Japanese thing, and the research shows that when you walk through a forest, it has a different impact on you than if you're just walking. And that's about the trees. There's this whole thing of interconnectivity with trees and how if there's a forest, it is an environment that's been created. And the reality is walking through there, it actually is like a wash. It washes over you. And believe me, I am a big believer in stuff that I know works. And I know that walking through there not only refreshes me, but it actually makes me more creative.
Maybe that.
When I walked out of that forest after 45 minutes, I've got two or three things that suddenly are apparent to me. I do a point of the day every day. It goes out to my subscribers, and I'll come out of there with 3 or 4 points. It's just something that's working in my head that suddenly is available through this process. And
Yeah.
people are like, that doesn't work. You've got to go and do it. You really do. You've got to commit to it, and you commit to it for a couple of weeks, and before you'll notice when you stop that
That's
it's not good.
that's an interesting concept because we live in a very wooded area, and I'm the same
Oh
way.
no.
And it scares her when I go walking by myself, because when I go out, I'll come back. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got like 5 great ideas. Get your pencil and paper out and let's talk about this stuff. And she's like, oh.
No, but I truly believe that is a part of this process that we don't understand. The Japanese do. And like I said, it's called forest washing. I recommend that. And people are like, yeah, well, I'm not going to do that. Okay, then just get out and walk in the cement. I don't care where you're walking. But
Do it
during the
close.
day,
Just get close to the trees.
that's true. Look at the trees.
You look at them.
Yeah, feel a leaf, do something. Nature, get into nature. But the reality is that during the day we need to re-energize, and you don't want to take. Everybody does a coffee break. Well, okay, you're artificially stimulating. So by the way, I'm a Starbucks fanatic. I've got it in my bio. I own stock. If I'm not doing 5 of them a day, it's not a good day for me. And everybody's like, that's crazy. And yet I can show you the health benefits of coffee. But regardless, my wife would say, yeah, let's stop at some point because you're overdo it. But don't just go to the coffee machine, because what's going to happen is you're going to engage somebody. It's not going to be exercise. Go outside, take a cup of coffee with you, walk, get some exercise, come back in. You'll feel better. You'll be more alert. And by the way, I love the concept of the afternoon nap. It's just not realistic for people. You know, the whole concept of 20-minute nap at 3 o'clock in the afternoon makes absolute sense, because it can't be any longer than 20 minutes. You go into REM sleep. So the reality is, drink a cup of coffee, take your 20-minute nap, and how do you wake yourself up? Well, you've got a phone that's got an alarm on it. I mean, are you kidding me? It wakes you up, you get up, and you are revitalized. And we're looking for that push for the end of the day, right? Because that's when, again, if we're not doing these things, we start to make bad decisions.
Yep.
And nobody is going to say, if your boss walks in and says, I need an answer on this, are you going to say, well, wait till I get a good night's sleep?
Right.
They don't react.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah. They're like, what are you talking about?
Just a minute, I'll be right back.
That's true. So yeah, those are the things. And again, I wish I could tell you that it's something revolutionary, but if it was, I would have written a book and retired. No, these are common sense approaches that I don't believe most coaches are willing to address with their clients, because they think that's too personal.
Yeah.
It is absolutely connected to performance. And I bill myself as a No-B.S workplace performance coach. So if I'm going to talk to you about your performance, obviously I'm going to start at that basic level, not how you're interacting with anybody else, how you're interacting with yourself.
Yep. Are
you taking care of yourself? I don't believe you can take care of others if you don't take care of yourself.
Right.
That's right.
So
That's been an underlying theme lately for all of our speakers.
So the other thing I wanted to tie into this right quickly is just, you said earlier, if we make these habits, they're not decisions anymore. But I think we can go a little bit deeper into that for just a second, that the amount of decisions that come at us every day, we have to develop these routines and habits. And your old friend from Chicago, the ex-president Obama, he's famously for having, and you can tell it better, but I think they're all gray suits and the same ties and everything. So he just says, look, I got hundreds of decisions I have to make every day. When he was president, the last thing I need to do is decide, is this the right color tie to go with this shirt, to go with this coat, with these shoes and these socks?
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's called this decision fatigue.
Yeah.
And you're right. Let's eliminate the necessity of making the decision. Right. And by the way, if we keep having too many temptations, we inevitably make a bad one, right? And by the way, that's also feeds into delegation, a different issue, because when I start listening to the decisions you're making, I'm like, seriously, you're being paid how much to make that decision? Are
right.
You nuts? That's not yours. So anyway, but you're absolutely correct. And so eliminate the decision-making process, reduce them. Can't get away from them. And by the way, I'm really huge about talking to my clients about big rocks. Which are the big rocks that you are required to move? Because if you're telling me that you're not spending your time and energy on the big rocks 80% of the day, you got a problem. You can't move the big rock otherwise. Get rid of the little rocks. And everybody's like, well, how do you make that decision? I've actually come up with a big rock filter that everybody has to. When you say to me, I'm going to take on a task, a new task, it's like, let's go through the big rock filter. Oh, wait a minute. That's not a big rock. It's not attached to a big rock. It's not anything that has to do with a big rock. Have you changed rocks? Because I'm all right with you telling me this is now a big rock, but by the way, that's not what you're telling me. Therefore, don't do. I had a guy, president of a company, that occupied his time looking at T-shirts that were going to be handed out. I was like, I don't have any problem with you looking at 2 or 3 T-shirts and picking the one you like. That should be like that. Oh my God, he was involved in the manufacturing shipment from China.
Oh my God.
What's wrong with you? But and by the way, See, he liked that. He liked doing that. That was the simple, but I said, so and I also believe time audits are required for time management. Therefore, every one of my clients has to do a monthly time audit. At the end of that day, because we do 24 hours, we then take a look at how you're spending your time. And that's where I get to say, that's not how you should be spending your time.
Yeah.
Not like, well, you don't understand. No, I absolutely understand. You don't know how to say no. And so let's talk about that.
Right.
Because if you can't say no, you can't lead a team. You
Yeah.
can't lead. So let me give one more thing that I missed last time. And time off. People don't take their vacation. It makes me crazy. You've got 5 weeks of vacation. You've worked your butt off all year, and you're not going to take your vacation because people don't think you're interested at work, that you've given enough of yourself to the job, that you shouldn't take your vacation. Americans leave 30% of their vacation hours unused, and they don't even get paid for it in most instances. You need to revitalize by getting away from the work environment, going someplace, I don't care where it is, go someplace where it's different. Let yourself be relaxed. And my contention is you need a week before you relax. That decompression does not take place overnight. In
Right.
fact, the concept of getting to wherever you're going is usually worse than work. Right? I mean, oh my God, did we pack this?
So
We
true.
didn't.
Yeah.
Home Alone. Wait a minute, one of the kids isn't here.
When the kids are gone.
So the stress of getting there does not, everybody says, well, I'm off work. No, you're not. You're not off work until you actually have got to wherever you're going to go,
Yeah.
unpacked, then you can start.
Yeah.
And the deal is, that's the time when your brain starts to work on interesting things. Not the mundane, not the usual. By the way, if you're doing your emails and whenever I have a client and I test them, they're on vacation and I send them an email. If they answer, they get an email back. What the F are you doing? Answering this email. Well, I thought it was, don't stop thinking. Do not think you're on vacation.
Right.
It's be quiet. Well, if you're doing that, then you're not doing what a vacation is supposed to do for you. Once again, revitalize, re-energize, and hopefully give you a different perspective. It's interesting about cultures. I know I'm chattering on. Going to a different culture, not being in the American resort, but actually going out into the natives' habitat is extraordinary to me about opening your mind to different. It just and we don't, Americans, we don't like that. We don't like anything different. I mean, if it's not a hamburger, after you've been in Japan and had sushi, you're like, is there McDonald's around? God, I hope not. Otherwise, we need to go farther into the country. So all of this is about making you better. So when you come back from the vacation, you absolutely are ready to be a better leader.
Right.
Maybe more open to an idea. By the way, there's a great book out by Adam Grant. Now that I've said that, I can't remember the name. It's Think Again. And I'm recommending that to everyone in my coaching program because he talks about the need to be thinking and rethinking how we do what we do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's a lot of research out there. It was first pointed out with children, that we have them so overscheduled that they don't have the opportunities like I did, that, you walked out of the house on a summer day and you found the rock and a stick and you figured out something to do with that all day. We were a little more creative. And I think it translates into our adult life. If we are so bogged down in all of the daily stuff, how can you possibly be creative? And, me and Terry have this conversation a lot that, sometimes during the week we get bogged down just, producing things and getting them out the door, that we really don't have the time to think about innovation and new and different things. So I can say from a personal experience, you've got to do that. You've got to take some time during the day, take some time during the week, make sure you get those vacations in, because you will think a lot more clear and be much more creative for sure.
Well, and I believe that one of the traits of a good leader is being curious.
Yes.
And you can't get curious if you look at the same thing and hear the same thing every day.
Right.
Your mind gets that structure to, that's what we're looking at with work, isn't it? Work is all about being structured. And once we get in there, and my father worked for General Motors as a electrician, and he hated being in the plant, but he was in southern Indiana, and it was the best paying job within 200 miles, and so he did it. But their thing, and they told him point blank, when you punch in, leave your mind at the time clock.
Right.
Don't want you thinking. We're going to tell you what to do,
Exactly.
and you do it, but I don't want you thinking about this job. I don't want you thinking about making it. Don't want to hear any of your ideas. And we like to think, because I love the fact that one of the arguments about coming back into the office is how everybody's going to get together and ideate. First, I even hate the word. We're going to all get together and ideate, right? And from that, we're going to have this innovative, creative surge. I'm thinking, I'm not sure where this is supposed to happen. Maybe in Silicon Valley, but I'm not so sure about that either. Ideas don't go from the bottom up. They're forced on us from the top down. And so thinking that everybody comes together and has a creative explosion does not happen. In fact, we put them into cubicles. Everybody goes to their desk, wherever it is, and then we're locked down again.
Right.
And so, but back to this, time off, weekend time off, absolutely decompress.
Yeah.
That's when you should be more physically active. Don't go out and kill yourself playing football, but take that extra walk. How about that? Yeah. I love people with dogs. A dog will make your ass get up and go outside, right? They come to you with the leash. They're like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Let's do it. And I think that's why we have to be forced to do this.
Yeah, if we sleep past about 6:30 in the morning, we've got two of them that are sitting there staring
On
nose
our
to nose with
on
you.
the chest.
Like,
absolutely. He's like, really? We got a thing going on here. It's biology,
You forget.
Exactly. But those are the things that we need. We need to force ourselves, unfortunately, because how we are living our lives is not natural.
right.
No.
There's nothing natural about how we live our lives.
Right.
And therefore, we are in conflict with who we are naturally. And we have to somehow resolve that conflict so that we are absolutely able to live a better life.
Yeah.
But that requires a lot of work, it requires a lot of attention, but it absolutely can be done. We know, and again, I know I'm beating the same drum. We know what to do.
Right.
Why aren't we doing it? Well, it's hard work. Oh my God. Is that the worst excuse? The only excuse worse than that is I don't have enough time. Right. Like, hey, seriously, don't even start with that. Yeah. That's not the problem. It's what you're doing with your time that's the problem. So everybody's got the same 24 hours, buddy. I'm sorry, but if you can't get your job done, we need to look at your job. Yeah. So anyway, but yes, so we need to align, and we need to live our lives according to not only our mental needs but also our physical needs. And we often let our physical needs take second place.
Yes.
Without realizing the negative impact that it's going to have on our mental life and our spiritual life.
No, you are exactly right.
So true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I got to go do my time audit now.
By the way, it's a 24-hour audit. Everybody's like, well, I'll just do it for my work. No, don't even start with me. I want to know what you're doing for 24 hours, because you're going to tell me how much you're sleeping and how much of your time at home is spent working. Okay. Because I'll guarantee you it's a couple of hours a night. Well, yeah, but I had dinner with the kids and then they went to bed. And so what was I supposed to do? I don't know. But if you're telling me that the best thing in your life at 8 o'clock at night is to read company emails, kill yourself now. Yeah, right. Seriously, because all you're doing is killing yourself slowly. Get it over with. Just say life is not worth living after 7 o'clock. I got to shoot myself. Really, I mean, come on. There's Perry Mason.
Perry Mason is waiting.
Yes.
Or the
So,
closer, or 48 hours. Boy, like to go to.
So if you're going to do a time audit, do it for the entire 24 hours in half-hour chunks. And, I've got a form. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And it's also an energy. Time is cool. Your energy level when you're doing something is necessary. You've got to look at it and go, here's where I have low energy. By the way, the task that I'm doing during this period of time, it doesn't let me have low energy. I've got to be concentrated. Now we get to talk about what you have to do for that period immediately before that your energy gets back up.
Okay.
Everybody, and by the way, I get so many, the pushbacks are notorious, right?
Right.
Every day is different. No, it's not. I'm sorry, you're telling me every day is different? Tell me what you do for a living, because I would love that. I don't care who you are. If you're working in American offices, every day is structured the same. You may be able to shove them around a little bit, but the duties don't change, the tasks don't change, and you're stuck in that environment. So no, I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is that you're going to do this and become aware. Now, what you choose to do with the awareness is entirely up to you, but it gives us the conversation.
No, that's another great point, is the self-awareness. The minute we can become aware of how we feel at certain points or how things make us feel, it changes everything, changes all of our dynamics for sure.
And Roy, the deal is, I look at people and I go, okay, unaware. Then we have aware. How are we going to get there? Well, there's ways, 360 reviews, time audits, all sorts of objective information is needed to cause somebody to say, I need to change. Yeah. So just me saying it to anybody, that doesn't really impress them. They're like, yeah, you don't know my life. Okay, well, give me a glimpse. Give me the 24-hour audit. Let's do a 360 with your team to find out if you really are a fantastic communicator. And then at the end of that, so we've got the unaware, then we get the aware, and then we get to the group I love the best. The aware, but I don't care.
Right.
Aye.
Oh, yeah. And there is a group of leaders who will tell you flat out, I don't care. I'm not changing what I do. My deal is the most difficult person to coach is someone who's successful.
Right.
They're afraid that if they change, that they're not going to be successful.
Right.
My argument is you're not as good as you think you are.
Yeah.
That's right.
Half of life is random. You were fortunate that the random part didn't kill you.
Right.
So, yeah. No, seriously, Elon Musk working 120 hours a week and believing that that's sustainable. Come on, man. Why be stupid? And by the way, after he about killed himself, he admitted that he was wrong. But you know what the model was for a while? His employees were afraid to go home. Oh no, he's sleeping in his office. I can't go home because he'll think I'm not engaged.
Right.
Well, he's stupid, but nobody would tell him that. He needed a coach. Somebody who says, what's wrong with you, dude? Diminishing returns. At some point, you may think you're making smart decisions. You're not making, in fact, nobody even knows what you're saying anymore.
Right.
Nobody's listening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Paul, we appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know we ran quite long, but it's just, it's a pleasure speaking with you, and you have so many good insights that we just want to try to soak it all up. Not only, for our audience gets to benefit, but, me and Terry have taken I've got a whole 2 pages full of notes written down here. So, but before we go, we always ask, what is a tool that you use in your daily life that really adds value, tool, habit?
In the morning after, when I get my Starbucks, I'm walking back it's a block and a half away. I do my gratitudes because I believe that positivity is huge and you are in control of positivity. If you want to think negative thoughts, you're going to have negative instead of positive. I need to realign my mind before the day starts. And on the way, when I'm driving to the gym, I pray. And everybody saying, well, that's not, you should, hey, look, I communicate with my God in my way. And you know what? So far, he has not hit me with a lightning bolt. So I think he's okay.
Right.
All right. He's given me some hard lessons, by the way, but
Rough
I
job.
appreciate that. Yeah. My conversation with him is always, hey, I've given you everything you need to succeed and you don't. Let's talk about that. He's kind of my coach. I don't get to see him often, but I do talk to him. But the reality is, coming home from Starbucks, I spend that walk doing my gratitudes. And my gratitudes are always about what I have to be thankful for in my life, because often we start to forget how life is good for us.
Yes.
I mean, and you had said that conversation about the pandemic. Pandemic has not hurt me like it's hurt other people. I am so grateful for that. So I do my gratitudes. I do my family. I do my friends, and I thank God for the ability that I have to earn a living doing something that I care about.
Yeah.
And that to me is the ultimate characteristic of a coach. You've got to care.
And I really enjoy your passion. That's why it's such a pleasure speaking with you, because your passion for all of this really does come out. And I know you'd make people in our audience a great coach. So we want you to reach out to Paul, give him a go. Paul, tell people, how can they reach out and get a hold of you?
I am such a simple guy. It's paulglovercoaching.com.
Okay.
That's how you get to me. Just the .com.
No-B.S. Tell it like it is. Just like that.
Let's just do Paul at paulglover.com.
Okay.
Also on LinkedIn, Paul Glover Coaching. I don't do Twitter. I think that's where maniacs go to scream. So I don't do that. But that's where you can find me. I've got a YouTube channel, paulglovercoaching.com, YouTube.
Okay.
So that's how people can get in touch with me. I am very passionate about what I do, but also I tell people, believe the no BS part, because every once in a while I get someone who says, I'm not committed, at which time the no BS kicks in.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to want, as in every relationship, you have to want the relationship.
And you generally deal, if I remember correctly, with teams, and mainly like in manufacturing and distribution, and
Yes.
usually, I guess usually the manager, maybe the CEO, somebody hires you at the top to help work with the team moving down that ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. And not that I won't work with other people, but I find that I'm most effective in distribution and manufacturing, just because there's less BS, not necessarily none, but less. And second, it's a individual or team coaching. I really enjoy team coaching. It's one of those dynamics that matters, but it's all about improvement. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, y'all reach out to Paul, and I know he can help you out. Paul, again, thank you so very much. That's going to do it for another episode of Feeding Fatty. I'm Roy.
I'm Terry.
Course,
appreciate it, Paul.
You can find us, of course, at www.feedingfatty.com. We're also on all the major social media platforms. A copy of this video of this interview will go up on YouTube when it is published as well. We're on all the major podcast platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. If we're not on one that you use, please reach out. We'd love to get it added for you to make it easy. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.